Okay, here we go. The thing that I want to cover today is just recapping the stuff that we looked at on Tuesday night, just so you have a reference that you can kind of go back to and make sure that you're getting all your buttons checked and making sure everything's looking good. So this is something I whipped up this morning. I was kind of influenced by, let me show you the image. In fact, it might be easier to bring it up this way. Uh, just another slide in that the Ford commercial. Just I wanted to give you an example. So I saw this one and I thought, hey, whoops, okay, this is what it looked like originally. Dirt. I'll take the marching ants off. So I saw that and I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I like this landscape thing. And basically what I did is with a series of moves, I just kind of painted out the rest of that so I could get a really clean version of it, and then just Command Jade that and brought that into a composition that has this stuff in it, and made the background with a little gradient, added some text. But just to go to show you, you can take, if there's anything that you like that you can make a selection of, it's good to practice those selections. You don't have to. This is all about color and text, but I just wanted you to see how I came up with that. That was my inspiration. I kind of modified it a little bit, trucks, more trucks, and this is what we're going to animate. Okay, so I'm going to shift over to Final Cut Pro right now. I'm going Command Tab. That was a little trick I showed you a few weeks ago, and I'm just going to choose that. Now, one of the key things as we're learning Final Cut Pro is just setting up the project properly. When you guys initially start it up, it's going to give you some choices of how you want to format the project, and this is where I was telling you about, we want it to be HD because it's going to be 1920 by 1080 pixels, so because it's going to be on a video wall. And so I can't simulate on my version what it's like, because yours is like the school computer in the lab and it boots up a particular way, but I'm going to show you what to choose when that boots up. Okay, so I'm going to go onto the Final Cut Pro menu, and you can do this too if you choose. You could choose really anything and then go to it this way. But this is what I want you to do. Choose the Sony XDCAM. These are like the cameras that we have at school, and then this is like a particular version of it. You can see that 1080i. You know when you see these 1080i's that the 1920 is the other part of that. They just don't want to add another 4 characters in here. And then you could do CBR, but choose the VBR, the variable bit rate. So this is just a type of Sony camera. The other ones are Panasonic and different kind of proprietary modes. So when your system boots up, the first thing it's going to ask you is choose a kind of file format, and you'll do that, and once you do that, you're okay. I'm just going to say setup for mine. Now on yours you're going to get this message that says, and I'm going to say new project here, and you'll see that in this metadata area my frame size is 1920 by 1080, and it says compressor XDCAM. Okay, so that keyword metadata, so you can, and then you can kind of drag any of these if you want to see any of this stuff. The frames per second is 30 frames a second, or 29.97. And Control U, if you ever like stretch something out, Control U. You don't have to know those things. That will not be on the test. The other thing I was going to say is that when you're starting up your Final Cut Pro, after you choose the file format, the HD, the XDCAM, 1920, the 1080i stuff, you're going to get asked, like, do you have an external audio video connected to the system? That's like, it's looking for a camera or a deck that is this kind of format. Just say continue to that. That's not something you're going to have. Okay, so just choose continue on that one, and then you'll have something that looks like this. And it's really easy. Remember, this is the browser, the viewer, the canvas. This is where the timeline plays here. This is where we edit stuff before we drop it into the timeline. I'm going to click in here in the browser, and you can kind of right-click this. If your right-click isn't working, you can. I'm going to choose Files here. If your right-click isn't working, you could always go File menu, and then Import, and then Files. Quick key, as you can see, is Command-I. Okay, I'm going to navigate to where I know that file is. For you guys, it's going to be under your Documents, IDM, and then the class number, hopefully, or on your desktop, depending on where you have that image. One moment, please. Okay, so you want to use the PSD. What happened? The Photoshop document is what PSD extension is called, and the JPEG, what it does is it flattens the image. It compresses all those different layers, and the good thing is that's what you want to use when you want to upload something to like eCampus or onto the web. It's perfect for images that are like photo-based images for the web. But not great for video editing. You want to, especially when you want to move the text around, you want access to the layers, and that's what using the Photoshop document does. So make sure, even though you submitted the JPEGs to eCampus, so you're not waiting 10 minutes to upload those. That's what I wanted to avoid you having to deal with. You will need access to your actual Photoshop document. You never want to get rid of that. When you save something as a JPEG in Photoshop, it doesn't get rid of the Photoshop document. You still have access to it. It makes a copy of the JPEG. So the JPEG is a copy of the actual thing. Now here's our image. And just like we did in class, so it comes in as this one kind of complete image, in case that's what you want. But you can also double-click that, and you'll see all those different layers open up. These are old layers here that I was just playing around with different stuff. We can get rid of those. I'm going to swipe here, and I'm going to bring that down just so it's not confusing for you. Okay, and okay, so let's get to it. Basically, so you can toggle these on and off. If you look up here, you can see the trucks is coming off and on. And more trucks. This is just the landscape, and then the background. Oh, that's kind of nice too. Okay, so let's start with the trucks, and basically I'm just going to double click that, and this is a 400-point font, so it's big. Remember, we want to, and check out how I made this when I was in Photoshop. So it fits into this title safe area. If you're not seeing it, you don't need to see that title safe area, but if you want to see it, it's show title safe under. You click this guy, and it'll bring that up. And that's that thing where it used to be more important. A lot of the high def monitors, you don't need to worry about this so much. You can go straight to the edge, but it's a good practice in general to be aware of this. Okay, so. And you can see I have it on over here as well. And let's move this. So the key thing is that motion tab right up here. And by the way, if you wanted to add, well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that we can animate here. Watch to the right. As I bring that scaling up, it's massive. You see this all the time, right? You see that in commercials. So you can have it go like shoom, right down from massive to, yeah, that was a good sound effect, you could go from 1,000 to 100 in 1 second and hit that with the sound effect. Not that no one will hear it with the video wall, but that's what you see all the time, people messing with, and it helps kind of make it more convincing when it has a little sound effect going. The rotation, a lot of you guys played with that. You could have it kind of rotating endlessly. And then we focused on this one, but there's also, you could work with the opacity. Check this out. Look to the right there. So you can make it fade up. Now, you could add a drop shadow if you forgot to, and motion blur we're not going to talk about just yet. The thing is I wanted to mention is that Final Cut Pro has a built-in character generator that's pretty good, but it's very limited, and you can do amazing stuff in Photoshop as your skills grow that you just can't do in Final Cut Pro, and that's why or Adobe Illustrator is another one that people will make graphics in and then bring them into Final Cut Pro or other editing devices like After Effects is a key one that people use a lot for this kind of thing. This is called motion graphics, what we're doing here. And so this is, let's do it. So what I showed you in class is that you can navigate to a particular point in time using this area here and just dial in there's 30 frames a second like we said, so what you'll see is this will count up to 30, 0 to 30, and when it gets to 30 it kicks over to 4. Do you see how that happens? So it's using like a 30 as the time element that it kicks over to. But you can just jump to particular moments just by dialing things in like that. I'm going to make mine actually 3 seconds would be better. Basically you want to have a little time for it to sit in its final mode. So we're going to say at 3 seconds with a couple more seconds left over here, this is 5 seconds at the end, we want it to sit and then kind of be fully kind of stopped for 2 seconds just so it sits so people can read it in its final form. Okay, so with that there at the 3 second mark, I'm going to go up to the motion tab and I'm going to do that little trick where I'm going to make it go from 1000 to 100. Okay, the first thing I do is I click this keyframe, and we're kind of starting in reverse in a way. It's just an easy way to think about this. This is on the right here. This is where I want things to end up at the 4 second mark. And once we set this keyframe, that's saying we have 2 spots, A and B. This is the B spot. In other words, end up here, and then we're going to go back to the beginning now. I'm going to just grab that cursor and bring it back. You could also hit the up arrow key. And now we can increase this. Now that it's here at the 0 second mark, you can increase this to whatever you want it to be, or do any of the other things that we talked about. And you'll see it added automatically a keyframe. I didn't even have to click that. Okay, so now when I do this, that movement is built in, and that's what's really cool. It's kind of doing all the calculations between 0 seconds and 3 seconds, so you don't have to do any of that stuff. What's really nice is just to have a smooth 2 keyframe thing just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to click this to make sure I go back right to the 4 second mark. I'm going to move the more trucks in. I'm going to do this just like we did in class. I'm going to select that layer down here, and then let's say I'm going to move that from the bottom up. This is X and this is Y. X is horizontal, Y is vertical. This is where minus 289.5 is where that sits naturally. And that's, like I said, this is the end point. We're at the 3 second mark. I'm going to put my keyframe here. Okay, now I'm going to take that off the screen. And you could actually hand click and move that, but I'm just going to show you the way that we did it in class. And I think this one we're going to go up in values to something like 800. It's no longer negative. Oh, what happened? I'm going to go Command. If you ever mess something up and you're like, what the F was that? Command Z is your friend. Okay, you know what I did? I selected it. I was confusing I got to double click it. Double clicking it brings up the more tracks, the more trucks, and I'm going to hit my keyframe here. It's minus 52, and now I'm going to bring that down to something like 500. And you can see there it is. It's not fully off the screen. I'm going to go 600. Okay, still a little bit there. 680. Okay. Working too quick now. 32 levels of undo. I hit the Command Z key 3 times and it brought me back to minus 52.5. That's where I want this to be for that keyframe. I'm going to go back over here, and we're at the beginning now. Now's when I drop that to 680. We know that figure, and now it's there. So you'll see the other one zooming down in, and then this one ending up there. Let's play it. Nice, okay. And that's what I want you to do. We'll learn how to export this stuff when we get in class on Tuesday.